Welcome to the Ironcast podcast. In this corner, we have John Shondelmyer. This is the Harmony Editions, and we have here a heavyweight in the field service technician whose career spans over 35 years across Doyle Equipment, Murphy Tractor and Equipment, and now GT&E. Yes, John is known not only for his technical expertise, but also for his dedication to communication, his passion for the future of the industry, and his deep commitment to family. He's a Technician of the Year Reward recipient, and that's why we call him the heavyweight. A devoted family man, a racetrack regular, and as many are surprised to learn, a genuinely skilled cook. That's right, we're cooking it up today. Welcome to the Ironcast, John. What was that?
Wow. That was a bit much.
Was that too much?
No, it was pretty comical.
John, we've been talking about doing this episode for
a year,
like 13, 14 episodes ago. You've been working on John Deere's for a while, huh?
Yeah, quite some time.
So you know a thing.
I've been around the block a time or two, yes. Yes.
It's like Allstate.
Yeah. I don't have my khakis on today.
That's
State Farm. That's State Farm.
That was
Sorry.
close.
Yeah. What's the difference?
I don't know, Jake. How long have you been with GT&E?
3 years. Coming up on 3.
How long have you been with Murphy?
12.
How long with Doyle?
20.
Wow.
Some on the count of time, too, back in the beginning when it was Doyle's, I had to prove myself. So I worked like a year full-time, part-time pay because,
Oh, wow.
I had to prove myself.
What was it like back 35 years ago working on John Deere equipment?
Different. Times were a little bit different. People were a little bit more understanding, not so demanding as they are now. Technology wasn't like it was today compared to yesterday. When I first started out, that's what I was telling Rachel earlier, we didn't have a lot of the hydrostatic systems that we have today, all the computer-controlled machinery. Everything was old school. Drive steering clutches, mechanical linkage. So basically, a handful of wrenches, start out your day, and everything was good. Now, 30-plus years later, it's like a mortgage payment on a Snap-on truck.
That's right.
Yeah. But it's been a fun journey. It's been unique. Got to see a lot of changes, a lot of developments. Pretty slick how people think and build what they're building. Not always agreeing with some of the engineering, when it comes to working on it.
Yeah.
It's a little tight quarter sometimes, but for the most part, it's been a nice journey.
And so folks know have you always worked out of the new Stanton location?
No. We first started out, I've always been to, was a little shop in Delmont.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Spent 30 plus years there. And then they actually had, when it was Doyle Equipment, they had a store up in Cranberry.
Yeah.
And then once everything, and they were both, family owned. And then before I moved into that shop, I worked for a small boro that had an old John Deere high lift. And I'd go out there to get parts. And at the time, it was still Petrie John Deere, where my boss originated at.
Wow.
So after Petrie was being bought out by Doyle, then they had a guy that was in the shop that got hurt, bad back, and I applied for the job. And here we are later on in life. I got that job, but turned down a lot of different jobs over the times. A couple times I could have went to work for the Turnpike, the railroad, places like that. And I thought, nah, I want to be a heavy equipment. At the time, we called each other mechanics. Now everybody's a technician.
It's technical now.
Yeah, it's very technical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
definitely got to bring your A game.
Well, tell me about that. And that's I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there listening to this that can resonate with that were working on equipment in general, not just John Deere, but the industry was different. I mean, and that too, like let's go back to the 90s. That was a heyday, would you say, for equipment?
Yeah.
I heard the stories. I mean, I was in the early 90s. I was getting out of diapers, but
Really?
I wore diapers for a while. Yeah.
Well, we start out wearing diapers and we end up wearing diapers, so it's all good.
I wasn't wearing diapers in the 90s.
I was going to say you were wearing diapers when you were what, 7?
7 or 8.
I figured
6 or 7.
6 or 7, okay.
But no, there's a lot of unique changes, and I can remember like when they first started introducing some of the hydrostatic machinery, it was all
Give us a model.
The old 655.
Straight.
Straight 655 was all mechanical.
Yeah.
And When the first time I got to see that, I was at the factory when they used to do the factory training. And you're like, wow, that was insane.
Yeah.
The technology, back then. And then when everybody started coming out with all the computer controlled, and the first time that I had to power up a laptop and learn all that, I thought, oh man, I'm never going to get this. But here we are 35 years later, and I do pretty decent troubleshooting wise. I'm not,
Yeah. I would imagine.
I do
Can't-
okay.
Yeah, you can't have the reputation.
No, BS only gets you so far. Sooner or later, you're going to be
It
called
always
out.
catches up, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, you can separate the people that know from the people that just basically, blow smoke.
Yeah. Well, there's a time and place for BS, and that's after the machine gets fixed. and
Absolutely.
and everybody's happy.
And a lot of these customers, too, back in the day, people could work on their own stuff, Now, a lot of these guys are smarter than what we're giving them credit for,
That's true.
and now we have Google. So there's a lot of Google mechanics out there.
Oh, that too. Now, on the customer-facing side, with John Deere Service Advisor, customer could have their customer-facing version of it, and it was kind of expensive if you had a small to mid fleet because it was like, however much it was, whether you had one machine or you had 100. But now with everything integrating into John Deere Operations Center, that's kind of like the platform for our customers to dive into, and with the integration too, to upgrade that to Operations Center Pro service. This is fairly new. It's only been out for a little bit when it got released, and I've been getting customers familiar with that over the last couple months. You can buy it per machine.
Mm-hmm.
It's a couple $100 per machine or whatever it is. And so a guy that has 10 pieces and he wants to start working on his equipment, and he's got a good guy that knows what he's doing, it's a great tool.
Well, I do like our own in-house DTech. I think that was whosever idea that was. I think that was a very good idea, because you got guys that are familiar with machinery, but then can sit behind. And I don't want to say the term like they're just sitting there doing nothing, but basically behind.
No,
a
he
desk
gets
where
up and goes to the water cooler. I seen him.
They can give you some answers, before you go and talk to one of the engineers from Deere, because.
And that's the connected support team that we had Tyler Schallenberger on here some episodes ago, and we often mention him as the unsung hero, but even more unsung to like what our customers know is that guy you're talking about, who we mentioned before, Brandon Ulrich.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked with Brandon for a number of years, and yeah, he gets it. And you're right, he does not sit behind a computer at a desk. He's often getting up, going into our shop, checking another machine or something to see where what something is, and but yeah, it's a great thing.
Yeah, because when everybody talks, and it's nice too, because if you went to put in a conversation with Deere from one of the DTAC, it's not like we can talk now. You can speak to these guys because they're on the same level playing field. Ask a question, because they could either go and figure it out themselves, or maybe one of their guys in the shop ran into a problem like that. And it definitely speeds things up. And of course, you still have that machine that everybody inherits, one that drives you crazy.
And I think the training, that in-house training, we get to tailor it, to what fits our needs.
Yep. Yeah, our in-house instructor.
Trying to give you, J. Cole, we're trying to give you some props.
That gentleman is he's unique. And I mean that in a good way. He's a good boy. Yeah. Yeah,
he's unique in a couple different ways.
Yep.
But
I mean, he's very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And it's nice that you can call him up.
Oh yeah.
Even
and he answers.
I've been around, and things are different now compared to what he gets to see. So it's nice that I can call him up, because he's of the younger generation. These guys are more technical oriented, so you don't have to feel insecure, because here I am at my age calling a guy up that's a lot younger than me.
Yeah.
It helps. It works.
Pool cleaners, they don't need any training. They just dive right in.
Ha, ha, ha.
Actually, a friend of mine was abducted by mimes. They did unspeakable things to him.
I'll let you have that one.
I'm just
That's
feeling
pretty
out
good.
your humor here.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause actually, John, this is the first day we ever met and talked to each other.
Oh, I thought he was going to say this is the first time you saw me laugh or smile.
He's got his own jokes.
Yeah. No,
On
I
my
got
expense.
jokes. Depending on how far you want to take it. We have to keep it PG though.
That's true, because we do have some younger listeners like J. Cole.
That poor guy, and he's not even here to defend himself.
So let's look back further here. How would you describe the evolution of your role over the years?
Oh,
Let's
wow.
pick up. We were there at the straight 655. Let's pick up from there.
My role. And actually, getting back to the 655, when I first started, when we were Doyle, that's when I started learning all this. And I'll never forget that day. I think I was there maybe 2 or 3 days, and I had to go and move a 655. So I get out there, you're young and you think you know everything. So I start this thing up, let it warm up a little bit, and I started backing it up, hit the kind of rotate, the pedal sticks. It kind of rotates, and I wipe out the whole side of a brand new office trailer because we used to rent office trailers.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I destroyed it. And I thought I was going to get fired. I go in to tell my boss. He comes out. He's laughing so hard, I thought he was going to pee his pants.
He was laughing.
He was laughing. Yeah, he
I-
said, that's the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Do you think like everybody that starts in this industry as a technician probably has a story? Maybe not.
Oh, I have stories.
Not a whole office
Yeah.
side of an office, but they probably all, because I had one. I didn't start in this industry, and we talked about this about motorcycles. I remember the first time I had a whoopsie. It was a brand new bike. I was taken to get prepped, and the guy was coming in to pick it up. And tires have a coating on them, and you got to be a little easy on the throttle.
Yeah.
And this was a 1,000cc sport bike, and I'm there trying to pull out in traffic and to go fill the thing up with fuel. So the guy had a full tank when he picked his brand new flashy bike up, and I let her flip. It ripped. And
You lay it down?
Oh, it high sided, laid down.
Nice.
And I just remember walking that bike because tip sensor sent things off.
Mhm.
And I remember walking that bike up behind the shop to the owner who's back there working on his race bikes, Friday afternoon. And like, I had my tail between my legs.
So you were doing a walk of shame.
It was definitely a walk of shame. And I remember the first words out of my mouth were probably the best words I could have said right then.
It wasn't my fault.
That's what I was thinking of saying, but I knew, just be straightforward. And I just said, I messed up. And he yelled at me for a little bit. It all came, you had to, sometimes you got to regurgitate that stuff a little bit, get it out. And he said, all right, let's get this fixed up.
Yep. He respected you more because you told the truth.
Yeah. That was a hard lesson, but yeah.
Yeah, you were humbled.
Oh my goodness, real bad, in a good way.
Mm-hmm. You learned from it.
Yeah, those are things you don't forget.
So now you have a tricycle.
So what keeps you motivated? After such a long, successful career, what keeps you going?
Owing the bank money. Nah, just kidding. I like to see how things are going to pan out. It's just one of them things where we've made it this far. What's it going to be like in the next 10, 15, 20 years? It's going to be very interesting to see where we end up.
So decade one, what was your thoughts back then with that?
To see the old original machinery?
Yeah, to where it got to, let's say, that's what I'm talking about, like going from the straight 655 up to the 655.
Well, I think it was nice for me because I got to see how that came to. So like the old mechanical fuel injection systems. Mm-hmm. So up to present day, now that everything's high pressure, common rail, some of the younger guys have never seen mechanical injected engines. They're like, oh, what is that?
Well, they're generally not coming through the dealership anymore. Would
No.
you say that?
No, we still have a few out there floating around, but
Yeah, some
Getting
loyal
kinda-
customers.
Yep.
Yeah.
that haven't took the leap and modernized some of their fleet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's time to see you have that push-off machine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I see most of those. Now I'm seeing it more like the C series. It
Yeah.
was the B series.
Yeah.
When I've been in since 2013. I've seen a lot of change. So When did you think the most change happened in the John Deere world, where you was just made your head spin? And if the answer is now, I can believe that too. But you've been around a lot longer than I've been.
I'm going to say right around the development, like the C-Series crawler.
Yeah.
That's where it started. I think, me personally, just based on what I got to see and what I've got to work on.
So late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, I'd say it's early 2000s, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they came a long way. And, a lot of times you're looking for hydraulic problems, like back in the earlier ones that didn't have any computers on it. Now you're tracing wiring problems, and it's just, once you learn how they want you to troubleshoot things, which actually has been better now over the years, because back in those models there were certain things that you couldn't do with either a laptop or the TCU.
Yeah, you had to have like a specialized box.
Now you can sit in the cab, and everything is right there. If you know
Brandon
where to look,
can sit in his office.
Yes, and then you get a phone call. The guy's got a check engine light on. Now you can log onto that machine and look at it at your computer before you even drive what could be hours to go and do something relatively simple.
You got half a truck full of parts ready to go.
Yeah, it's definitely working. Sometimes I think things get a little bit too complicated.
I think in this industry, communication is one of the biggest challenges. For you, John, what does being on the same page look like in your day-to-day work?
Starting out the customer, like I said, at the end of the day, our goal is to make sure that he's happy. But when you got a customer that's having maybe a hard time communicating with us as to what his problem is because they haven't kept up with the times as far as technology, whether it be on the injection pump side, the hydraulic control side, trying to learn all the terminology. But if you can speak to the customer and kind of reassure them that, you're in good hands, speak freely.
Yeah.
We're all adults, we can handle some criticism where, if you don't like what I'm saying, just tell me.
It's constructive, right?
Exactly. We're all adults. So I think as far as the communication thing goes, we got really good guys in our shop, technician-wise, parts guys do an excellent job. They're still learning. They didn't come from the background where I came from or my previous boss who retired. He was in the industry for almost 40 years. Yeah. So he got to see a lot of things. But, what's nice about our people in New Stanton, you got parts guys that are a little bit uncertain, so they'll come out and say, hey, can you come out and look at something? And I'm like, yeah, I know what that is. Let's help the guy out. Well, then the customer's happy. Same way with our service manager. We help her out a lot because she came from an ag background, and she's unfamiliar with a lot of stuff, so we help her out a lot. So I think communication for all of us to function as a whole, I think we all need to be allowed to speak freely and openly and help each other out. And I mean, if you look at a parts breakdown, I feel bad for those guys because not everything is the same as what we're used to calling parts.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't matter what you're looking at.
I've even noticed that.
Some of the simple things that we take for granted, the parts side of it, they're not labeling it the same. And then the parts guy's like, where do I find this? And then if you look, depending on what you're working on, you look at the breakdowns and a lot of that stuff. Yeah, my heart goes out to those guys.
Yeah.
Because it can be very frustrating. Sometimes it looks like they want to go sit in the corner and cry.
But you almost have to cry, and get through it and find it. But the problem that there's
crying is very soothing.
Yeah. It's a part of healing.
Yeah.
So how do you think companies, let's just say companies in general, obviously in the construction industry, can improve communication, let's say between their teams, their departments, or even their customers, from a field service technician point of view?
Me personally, I think sometimes maybe, and I don't know, just going to say it, basically sometimes maybe let some of the egos and think that you're smarter than you really are. And basically, listen to these people because, everybody's got a story. Think before you speak. That's what we were.
That's tough for me sometimes. I'm an extrovert, so I'm thinking as I'm talking.
Well, a lot of these customers, they're not stupid.
No,
they're very smart. I mean, you spend that kind of money, you didn't get to be where you're at by being dumb.
No.
You know, just talk to the people because, you know, they got deadlines to meet like we all do, and be a little bit more forgiving. Help people out a lot more.
Yeah.
And don't just look at them as, you know, as another $1, $2, whatever it is.
Wow, that's profound.
Yeah. Well, at the time, you know, $2 maybe more, a couple 100,000, give or take. Because, you know, don't take away the right for somebody to speak to the customer because, you know, that's what a lot of us technicians do. Talk to the guy. Make him feel reassured that, you know, you're there to help him at the end of the day. Put all of the other stuff aside and, you know, speak to the guy, see what he's after. It may turn out that what was everybody thinking may be a great big giant problem turned out it might be something simple, you know. But
Right.
talk to him, listen, tell him what he wants to know and not what he think he wants to hear.
And that's what I was going to even get to here. Do you think the issue might be just my machine's broke, it's the end of the world, I have blinders on, I can't see past my nose? And do you think sometimes they're trying to convey stuff and we're not listening?
Yeah, well, it's always the end of the world. You just have to be patient.
How do you do that?
But you can't teach patience. It's something you have to learn, you know,
When did you learn it?
at a very young age. I've always been a very patient person. Growing up in the family that I have, you know, with that many siblings, you have to be patient.
So our team here, let's say we have some younger folks.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they've probably worked alongside of you. How do you show that?
Just basically, I got to tell them that this isn't all about you. There are other people and other factors at play, and you got to be patient. This certain generation that thinks everything needs to happen now, well, if that's what you think, then you might want to go somewhere else and work because this kind of stuff doesn't happen overnight. You got to pay your dues. You got to put your time in. Everybody needs to be told what to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes these younger guys have been told things that you got to get inside their head, scrub out all the BS, and teach them the right way of doing things.
Wow.
And they need good leadership. There's a lot of good guys out there. There's a lot of very good technicians in this company.
I would agree.
Yeah. And I think sometimes a lot of them get overlooked because, you know, not everybody speaks what they really feel because, you know, everybody's afraid of having their feelings hurt or, you know, they're afraid of repercussions from management, which I don't think that should come into play unless you're just a blatant foul-mouthed person. You're not going to get any kind of help. But if you present things to your boss or to the people that's signing your paycheck and say, hey, you know what, how about let's try this? Let's do this. This doesn't work. Well, maybe we can try this, you know.
So would that be your encouragement to our team? Because a number of them will be listening to this.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I'm not going to say anything that I don't feel. I'm not going to lie about what I feel. Because if we're speaking honestly and openly, just maybe take the time to get to know people. Listen to their stories and, you know, listen to what bothers them work-wise. And I think at the end of the day, I think if that comes about, I think everything will be better. But, I mean, looking forward, I think we're heading in the right direction. But like I said before about the younger generation, I think that maybe they just need to be not so much hold their hand, but I think they need to be held a little bit more accountable. You know, the world doesn't owe you anything. It's what you make of it.
Wow. I'm learning so much here, John.
I doubt that. You're reading from a script. I'm shooting off the hip.
That's what I like. I'm reading from a script because I want this podcast to be less than the 10 hours of runtime I have on
Well,
this.
I tried studying for this test. I couldn't do it.
There is none. You already did it.
Yeah.
35 years of it.
I figured, you know what? I don't want to say it is what it is, but I figured, you know, ask the right questions. I'll give you the answers that I think are pertinent to our conversation.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So are there any changes or innovations that you hope to see in the next decade?
With the company or with machinery?
Both and.
I don't know. I think sometimes maybe some of the engineers should listen to some of the mechanics, the way they design things.
We'll send this to Deere.
Yeah. They're not going to listen. Some of the machinery out there, you're a little bit challenged as to how much stuff they pack inside that little machine. And then when it comes time to work on it, you're like, wow, who thought this was a great idea? Sure would like to meet that guy.
Can you give an example of something?
Skid steers are the worst to work on.
Why is that?
Because if you open up the compartment back where the engine's at, and then some of the sensors, I actually, and everybody laughs in newsstand because I've actually diagnosed some machinery, skid steer wise, one particular sensor that needs changed. I know where it's at. I can't get my hands down in there because a little bit of a disadvantage because, well,
You got some
yeah.
Paul Bunyan's there on your paws, buddy. When you shook my hand this morning,
like,
I'm like, whoa.
And it's funny. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse at the same time, you know. But it's all good. Talked to a couple of the guys from John Deere one day, and I told them when I had to go change out one of those sensors, and it took me way longer than what the flat rate was on it.
Mm-hmm.
So he was actually at our shop one day. He was a warranty guy, and I took him outside, and I said to him, I said, I'll give you the tools. I said, show me.
Mm.
He didn't even know where it was at. And I'm like, okay, you want me to change out something in, say, half an hour?
Yeah.
And I said, when the engine come through from the factory, everything's painted. So all the paint's down inside that Allen head bolt. I got to use 2 fingers to get in there to feel around a little pick. And I'm like, yeah, you need to redo your thinking.
Yeah.
But it's like falling on deaf ears. They don't listen. They keep piling more stuff around it.
More stuff to pile around. That's with the technology. I mean,
Yeah.
you keep adding more technology. It requires more sensors, which
Yeah.
all these things work together.
Yeah.
Which for our customers, it's a great thing that we can diagnose these machines out there in the field. But somebody has to work on it too.
Yeah, and it's always wait until we're done with it. So you show up on a job site. It's not so bad in the wintertime, but when you show up on a job site and it's already 80, 90 degrees out, you go to work on an engine with an after treatment problem that's already got done going through a regen. It's like, okay, yeah, well, God didn't give me skin that's fireproof or fire retardant. I burn just like the next guy would do.
Yeah.
You're going to have to wait a little while.
John, let's get to know you a little bit.
But you just did.
Even more than that. Let's dive
Wow.
deeper. Let's humanize you a little bit.
I am human.
Yeah.
I am human. Even though my wife says I'm a gift from a God, I'm an angel, but I am still human.
It's great.
She's a good girl. She just turned, well, I'm not going to say her age. Had a birthday yesterday, so.
Oh,
Yep.
25?
22.
Okay.
Yeah, she just
I
turned
thought-
22.
okay,
Yep.
I was a
So I
little
can
off.
finally now legally take her out to drink.
There you go.
Yep.
Well, speaking of family, I know one thing you mentioned before is you could talk for hours about time at the local racetrack.
Mm-hmm. I have an older brother and one of my older nephews that do a lot of racing up at the local, drag strip.
Yeah.
And some of the best moments we've had up there is like during the Halloween Classic. That's like their big
It's quarter mile?
Super Bowl. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, now it's 8th mile.
Eighth mile.
Yeah. But it's like their Super Bowl at the end of the year where
Wow.
everybody gets together and, you drink, you laugh, you drink some more, you eat, you drink some more. Of course, you're not racing when you're drinking. That's forbidden.
Right. Yeah, you probably don't want to do
Yeah, no drinking and driving at that speed. But yeah, my nephew's son, his daughter, both, they had junior dragsters, did very well, and then the boy pursued to do it more because that's what he does. The daughter, she went off to college.
Mm-hmm.
The nephew's son, he goes and doing very well with the dragster, and I actually sold him my old dragster, so he's doing very well. And it's nice to go up there and see.
You had a dragster?
I did have. Yeah, before that I had a pulling tractor.
You did? Oh, man.
I did, yeah. It was some fun times. Spent a lot of time at the fairgrounds, which I've always loved the fair, Who doesn't like a hot sausage sandwich that's got a little sweat dripped in there on your peppers and onions?
It adds a little
flavor.
Yeah, a little salt.
Yeah. I do like to cook.
Do people not know that or something? Because
I don't really broadcast that. I'm pretty humble. Years ago when we first moved into Newsstand, at the time they were having their employee appreciation. So one of the guys that I work with down there, when they were raffling off all the prizes, he said, "I never win anything." And I says, "Well, I want that Blackstone griddle." He said, "Well, if I win it," he said, "I'll give it to you." He ends up winning it. I get the Blackstone, and I do all the cooking on the Blackstone griddle.
You like that thing, huh?
I do like it.
I have one as well. I also love cooking. That's why when I heard about your cooking, I was like, oh, we're going to talk a little bit here.
So after I get the Blackstone, and of course, I like to do things, a little research before I delve into cooking, and started going on to Blackstone's website, started watching and learning. And one of my favorite ladies on Blackstone is Blackstone Betty.
They should make that in a song, just
Well, there's that other one, Old Black Betty, Wham-a-Lam.
Wham-a-Lam.
Yeah, or Ram Jam.
Ram-a-Jammer. Yeah, something like that. So let's say we're at your house. It's summertime. It's obviously not right now. It's pretty cold out. But let's say we're out there in your backyard and you got that Blackstone. What would you cook for your favorite?
One of my favorite dishes is halushki.
All right, you're above my level.
I like halushki.
Tell me about that. What is that?
Basically, it's cabbage and noodles.
Really?
And then if you want to dress it up, put a little bacon in it.
Oh, bacon helps everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get our, and I like the purple cabbage. So chop it up. You fry it up on the griddle.
Yeah.
But then the noodles, of course, you can't fry them on there because, you got to boil them.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, watching my mom when she was cooking, because she's pure Polish. So that was one of her.
You got to be technically correct here.
Yeah. Well, I'm a Polak. I'm okay with that.
You're allowed to.
Yeah, I'm allowed. Yeah, I'm allowed to be. So other than that, I just kind of, the wife actually, she was the one that turned me on to the red cabbage. It's kind of like a burgundy color.
Yep.
But yeah, once she come home one day and she's like, "Oh, what's that smell?" Well, it was a good smell. I just want to point that out there.
Let's be specific here. Yeah.
I was cooking.
A lot of smells.
Cabbage and noodles on the Blackstone, and that's got to be one of my favorite. Yeah, I love pasta, and then when you mix cabbage and butter and bacon.
Butter.
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 Real butter, not margarine, not stuff that you scoop out.
Yeah.
It's got to be real butter.
I think it's funny with I can't believe it's not butter.
Yeah, no.
Why even mention that?
No. Butter, that kind of stuff, margarine, Crisco. Yeah, you won't find that.
It's either
in my
butter
house.
or it's not.
Mm-hmm. And now, a friend of mine turned me on to beef tallow.
Oh, that's
a
game changer.
Is excellent.
You ever cook potatoes on your Blackstone with beef tallow?
Well, no, but I will be.
Well, talk to J. Cole about that next time, and he'll hook you up
with beef tallow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's a soap maker.
Oh, really? Well, I can't cook with soap.
Yeah, but with some of the ingredients you can.
Yeah, the beef tallow part. Yeah.
One of the ingredients you can. You probably don't want to cook with lye.
No.
That would be bad.
No, lye would be bad. Use it to clean your drain.
Yeah.
Not to clean your pipes up.
Beef tallow and a little sweat.
Yeah. Yep. Mixed with a little bourbon.
John, one thing I'm really interested when we get somebody that has the experience you have, especially out in the field. What's your most memorable experience? Like the most difficult situation that you were in out in the field?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's memorable. That's a long list. One of the most memorable times was when I was working up along a turnpike. Operator swung an excavator into the front of my service truck and tried blaming me, said I drove into him. And I'm like, yeah, no, that didn't happen. So I had to fill out this little accident report, and then for the longest time, boss had it on file. I'm not an artist, so I'm drawing these little stick figures. And it was terrible. It looked like a fourth grader drew these pictures. But yeah, I mean, we've worked on some other places where got to be not friends. I mean, the guy that I was doing work for because he rented machinery from us. He actually looked like he was connected with the mob. Came to give me a big hug one day, and I said, please tell me that's a roll of quarters there. And he's like, wow, it was this 380 auto he had strapped to his side. And I'm like, damn. I've actually been out on quite a few tugboats over the years.
Have you?
Mm-hmm. Working down inside the engine compartments because the generators had John Deere engines on them.
Yeah.
So that was always unique. And then a couple times in particular, you lit up a 5-gallon bucket of tools. You're down in the engine compartment, and you knew what you needed for that job. You're down there working. You get all done. You come back up, and you're like, where am I? Because they're still pushing barges up and down the
where's
river.
the shore?
Yeah. And it was always a funny story because I was telling Rachel earlier about not being able to swim. So those guys laughed and gave me my own little life jacket. And I'm like, well, what's the whistle for? And they're like, well, in case you're drowning. I'm like, if I'm sinking, who's going to hear it sound?
Drowning, I won't have the air to push.
Yeah. And then there's always another thing that was pretty funny about the tugboat. We're down there loading up one day to go look, and I'm like, wow, what is that? And the guys, they got their own chef, which I use that term lightly.
Okay.
He's not a chef. He's just whatever,
It's
some kind of.
It's a mess hall for a reason.
Yeah, whatever kind of frozen entree that Mrs. Callender had. That's what is unthawed and cooked. So when they're done, basically everything gets tossed in the mon, and I see the size of some of them fish, and I'm like, damn. Looked like piranhas. Turned out they were, I think, carp.
They were carp, yeah.
And I'm like, wow.
They'll eat it.
That actually lives in the mon.
Wow. That's wild.
But yeah, it's been pretty interesting. Got to meet a lot of interesting people.
Yeah? Any that stick out?
Any that stick out?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. But we had a customer years ago that was an ex-football player. He played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we worked together a lot. Super nice guy. Yeah. Him and his father, they did mine reclamation work.
Oh, nice.
So you're out there working on a machine. He was technically considered royalty, not by my standards, because, but it was interesting.
Who was it? What player?
His name was Pete Rostowski. I think he played back in maybe the late 80s.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah. I know there's going to be people listening to this who put, yeah.
He's a good dude. I haven't seen him in years.
All right, let me look him up real quick.
Yep.
So it says Pete Rostowski, born in 1961, American former professional football offensive tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep.
He played from 1984 through 1986. He attended University of Connecticut. He was part of the team that advanced to the 1984 AFC Championship game versus the Miami Dolphins. It says he returned one kickoff for 3 yards in 1986. His number was 63.
I never got the chance to know all his stats because I'm not a...
Even you learned something on this podcast.
I did. I'm not a football person.
He resides in Canonsburg, PA.
So I'm assuming that you have quite a following of dedicated customers that say,
yes.
I want John.
Actually, yeah. I mean, not to sound whatever the word I'm looking for, but to stay humble, yes, there is quite a following. It's not like a cult following, but, a following.
The Shondelmyer cult.
You don't have Kool-Aid that you give them.
No. Yeah. But actually, you want to, one of my, now that you're talking about memorable stories, a long time ago, we were Doyle Equipment, and I was working up close to Nemacolin Woodlands, and I had to go work on an older crawler that was there. And I think the place is called the Brooder House, where it looks like a cult. The women, they're not allowed to talk to the men, and, I like to talk to anybody. So when you're out there trying to work on a machine and you're trying to pick up a conversation with some of the women, and they're like almost afraid to look at you. Well, then they ended up trying to recruit me into their cult to help. And I probably shouldn't say that word cult, but yeah, you can.
To their organization.
Their organization. Yeah. It was unique.
How did they try recruiting you?
Ask me if I wanted to become a member of their.
How many people were a part of this organization?
A lot.
But it wasn't like, do they live like on a
compound? Oh, yeah. Almost like a Jim Jones type thing.
Oh, my goodness.
You know who that was? The guy that made everybody drink the Kool-Aid but himself?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. nice people.
So do you ever sit back and think, if I had just accepted that invitation, my life could be
Oh, my life
so different.
It's been very different.
I know one highlight for you has been, and why we called you initially in the introduction, the heavyweight champion. Let's talk about winning Technician of the Year for John Deere.
Wow.
Was that memorable for you?
Very.
Your career?
Very.
Why don't you walk us through what happened there?
Actually, when I found out that they were going to nominate me for it, I basically told them that, that wasn't for me. I said, there's a lot better technicians out there than me. People with, better stories, whatever. But then they already nominated me. And then one of the previous ladies that worked for Groff, she started getting in contact with my wife because she's asking me questions, and I'm pretty humble, so I'm not going to brag about myself. So she gets in contact with my wife. So they had this whole thing going behind the scenes, talking back and forth about my journeys, things that I've done. And then to find out that I won, and then I had to go, and that was
what was going through your head when you found out
that I won.
Do you think that did you feel that this stuff was kind of going on behind your back, or not in a bad way?
No, pretty much it was. Yeah, pretty much. I was kept in the dark like a mushroom. I just
fed stuff and in the dark.
Yeah, yeah. You know the story. Yeah. But no, it was pretty neat. And then I didn't want it because I don't like to be in the spotlight. That's, not where I excel.
You just like fixing equipment.
Yeah.
And getting people up and running.
Yeah. Just stayed under the radar.
Yep.
Stay safe. But then it was very nice opportunity to get to see things. And as far as the whole
thing, when you found out, I
Yeah.
won.
How did you find out?
Selena.
She called you?
She called me, yes.
Okay.
She called me, and then I told my wife about it, and she's like, oh, I already knew all this. And I'm like, how did you know? Well, me and Selena's been talking. About me? Bad things? She laughed, and she said, no. She says nothing bad. But then, you fast forward to being flown to Nashville to meet with the people that were, the previous year's winners.
Oh, yeah.
Which was pretty good. And then a lady from Deere that took care of all this. Between the dinners and getting to see the factories and all the tours and everything, it puts a lot of things into perspective to know that when you sit down in the seat of that machine and you start it, to see where it came from the raw material.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's impressive when you see that size of a building under concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane in a good way.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they obviously gave you a hat.
Yes.
Those that are just listening to this, they can't see that, but he's got his
I got my official hat on. Yeah.
CNF Division Champion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you were one of how many CNF technicians?
I don't know.
Was it only like 2 or 3? Not even.
Well, that makes me feel really bad now.
No, because the majority were all from the ag side.
Yeah,
the majority was from the ag side. Because I remember it was a very big deal that there was a...
But yeah, it was neat. It was very neat.
What do you think contributed most to winning Technician of the Year?
I think it had to do more with just like you as a person overall, not just, and I didn't know this, but it wasn't just always based on what you know, it's what you do for family, friends, community. And some of the things that was on there, like during the pandemic, when things were a little bit tight throughout the world, the wife and I would, pick up some food, deliver to some elderly people, took care of a lot of people in our area, things that you don't really broadcast out there, but things that do come out later on in life, this look what they done, to help people out. The elderly gentleman that lives below me, disabled vet, we do a lot for him, make sure he has a meal, make sure his grass gets cut in the summertime, which I get paid with, with a can of Coke.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'm not a pop drinker, but, I get this can of Coke.
It's not soda?
Yeah, it's soda. Yeah, Coke soda, not the...
That's right. We're out west.
Yeah. It's not the sniff Coke. It's not that.
No, I didn't think but you said pop. I didn't.
Yeah.
Pop. Soda, pop, yeah.
Oh, what do you call whoopie pies?
Moon pies? Or a gob?
A gob.
Oh, a gob, yeah.
Yeah.
Moon pies is...
I heard it called
Larry the
gob the
Cable,
other day. Oh,
yeah.
you should go get a gob. I'm like, what is that?
gab.
A gab.
A gab. Is that what I sounded like when I said? Did I say a gab?
No.
It's a gob.
It's a gob.
It's a gob.
Moon pie was like Larry Cable guy.
Yeah.
He liked moon
I do like moon pies. Moon pie and a yoo-hoo.
Yoo-hoo.
Did you ever have a yoo-hoo?
Of course.
Yeah.
I got kids too.
Yeah. Basically, all this is sugared colored water.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then this elderly gentleman there, this past snowstorm that we had, walked down to make sure he was okay, and ended up getting involved in shoveling snow, which turned out I didn't shovel it. I got a hold of a buddy of mine, the same one that turned me on to the beef tallow. His name's Andy. Pretty good dude. He lets me borrow his snowblower, so I go down there early on a Saturday morning and blow all the snow out so he can get his load of propane, and he's happy.
Yeah.
But now the sun's out, so you can't tell what I did. Look, I was actually having fun with the snowblower. It looked like a freeway in my yard. Anything I didn't build was roundabouts.
There you go. John, as we wrap up here, to our folks, I know we talked a lot to them earlier with some great nuggets of wisdom, but in closing, what advice would you give someone that's just entering the field today?
Be patient. And when somebody's offering you some training, listen. And if they want to send you to the factory or, with the GT&E, the Deere with their own in-house training, take advantage of it. Because you'll appreciate it later on in life if you want to stick with the career. Because it's a pretty good career. You got to have the right mindset.
What mindset do you need to have?
Stay focused. Look at the long haul, the long picture.
And you're still at it.
Yeah. And don't look at it just for, money, of course, is a good thing, but sometimes there's more to life than just the money. That satisfaction that you just help somebody out, that goes a long way.
Is that what keeps you going?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I'm not a quitter. I like to keep on keeping on. Did you ever watch Joe Dirt? Joe Dirt. Like posi traction in a Dodge. We don't know how it works. It just does.
There you go, buddy. Gets you done. You've been in the John Deere world for a long time. You've seen probably a couple different emblems out there that had from the jumping deer to the leaping deer. You've seen some different dealerships as well. We mentioned the three that, Doyle's, Murphy. Thinking about the John Deere legacy, what do you think about legacy, your legacy? And I know you are humble. And that's a lot of what I think John Deere is built on is, how they began and where we're going, both professionally and personally. What do you hope people remember?
Other than the fact of, being a loyal person, loyal husband, and like one of the guys in the shop was teasing me, his name's Dan, pretty good mechanic, technician, and he always says that he wants to be a pallbearer at my funeral because he said, I want to let you down one more time, and I'm like, wow. It was pretty comical. But now, as far as legacy, I come from a family of a lot of good, hard workers, and I hope people remember me by being just more than a hard worker. Good technician. I strive to be. Am I the best? No, I'm not the best. I think there's a lot better guys out there than me. But this was one of them times where I got chosen because everybody thought I was the best. I can't say I'm the best, but a lot of people say that I'm very good at what I do.
That's the thing about humbleness is that's what other people tell us.
Yep.
That's what makes the moment you stand up there on the grandstand and say, oh, I'm technician of the year, or I'm this, or I'm that. Somebody told me once, when our time here is done and everybody gathers around and your pallbearer is there that wanted to let you down one more time. It's not always the Sure. Well, we'll mention technician of the year, and I've been in the industry just long enough that I've been to customers' funerals. I've seen some heavyweights that were let down one more time.
Mm-hmm.
When we're there sharing moments and memories, it's those memories that you were talking about, and the reason why you were chosen to be technician of the year. It wasn't just that you're a great technician, because I think that's the other thing I was told, from people that are much wiser than me, which isn't hard to find, that it's not what you know, it's who you know, who you surround yourself with.
Well, if you surround yourself with good people, good things will happen. And as long as you have people basically, I don't want to say fighting for you, that's probably not a good term, but when they know that you're doing good, everybody needs that little reassurance, like, hey, you know what, did a good job today. Nobody wants a pat on the back, but if somebody's going to come over and say, hey, good job today, thanks for showing up for work, thanks for meeting a quota, thanks for meeting a deadline. It's just sometimes it's the little things that we overlook that mean a lot to a lot of guys. Like I said before, listen, ask the guys, what do you need? Make your job a little easier.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a story. Just whether or not you want to listen and do anything about it, that makes you a good boss, manager, CEO, CFO, whatever the case may be. Just take your time to get to know people. And not just think of us as just somebody that's fixing machinery, because we're beyond that. We're more than that.
There's always somebody else that does it better.
Yep. Oh, yeah, you always got your armchair quarterbacks that sit there and, tell you how good they are. Okay, well, show me. If it was this easy, you'd see a lot more people doing it. It's a very tough profession.
So what's the reward?
The satisfaction of knowing that you can fix something that costs that kind of money. And then you see the smile on that guy's face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not something you see from the office.
No. And then, you're always going to have an angry customer. It's how you deal with them.
Yeah.
Do you want to argue with them? No, because that doesn't get anywhere. Listen to them. Take the time. BS about something. Find what he's interested in. Talk to him a little bit. And you'd be surprised at how quick you can calm a situation down.
Is that the patience then?
Patience. You got to
Wow.
be very patient. And they respect you more because you were honest with them. Like I said before, these guys are too smart. They know when you're blowing smoke up there. Get Rachel to hit get Rachel to hit the bleep button, the censor button. But at the end of the day, it's very rewarding. Has its good days, has its bad days. And not if the sun's shining, you're going to find it, a lot of people's in a lot better mood.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's outside. I was going to say the smoke's rolling, but of course now we don't see any smoke coming out the pipe.
But the dirt's moving.
The dirt's moving. Yep. Spring's coming. You get them good smells in the air. Everybody's attitude changes. It makes it more enjoyable to go to work now that people were in a better mood. You got to take the good with the bad. And the guys that stick it out are the ones that's going to go places.
Yeah.
When you have a bad day, everybody has a bad day. There's things that take you a lot longer to fix than, let's say, what management might think of. Or, some things that just can't be explained. It takes time to figure certain things out.
Yeah, a lot of that too is, it's more complexities to fixing equipment. There's a lot of overhead. There's a lot involved. There's a lot of training. There's a lot more tools. There's a lot more technology that we got to keep up with. So yeah, the clock does have to keep ticking.
Mm-hmm. And that's what scares a lot of the younger guys because they're panicking, thinking, "Oh my gosh, I can't get this figured out." And you have to tell them, you know what, baby steps. Just calm down and just think it through.
Mm-hmm.
Ask for help.
John, I'd like you to do the send out here. If there was one piece of wisdom, not just to our folks in our company, not just to our customers, but everybody listening, what would you like to send us out with? On a word of wisdom and encouragement for us.
I don't know. Don't you have to be wise before you can preach wisdom?
Well, you got the gray hair. That's where they keep the wisdom.
Wow. He went there.
I can because
Wow.
I'm allowed.
I know. I'm just messing with you. Piece of wisdom. Keep plugging along. Be patient. Things will follow suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think we need patience right now?
I think we do. I think everybody's just so fast to just point fingers, you know. I think just be patient, listen. Good things will happen.
And on that, the Ironcast is out.